This isn't a place for a bottom-of-the-barrel person like you. Get lost.
The moment these words, the finale of flurry of verbal abuse, were hurled at me by our new recruit, Rachel, something inside of me snapped. Still smiling, I gestured with my hand. Look over here. My name is Sherry. I'm 65 years old. I had initially worked for this company, took a break due to marriage and raising children, and have since returned to a part-time administrative role. I have a deep personal attachment to this company. After all, I've been working here since graduating middle school. Back in the day, it was a small-scale company with just a few dozen people. Reflecting back, when my father passed away suddenly, I gave up on going to high school and started working to support my mother and young siblings. I thought to myself, my life is so miserable. Now I realize I was wrong. Life is full of surprises. I believe that it's because of the hardships I've faced that I can enjoy my fulfilling daily life now. And that's how I had come to think. Oh, this document. As I was doing my usual work, my eyes fell on my document tray. The document on top was oddly colorful, decorated with mysterious illustrations. Apart from the necessary charts and graphs, there were various other problems, but in any case, it was formatted differently than the company's set standard. When I asked around about who had left it there, it turned out it was a new employee, Rachel, who had left it during my absence. Holding the problematic document, I headed towards Rachel's desk. Rachel? Hi there. Can I talk to you for a moment? When I called out to her, Rachel turned her eyes towards me without responding. Her haughty attitude was perplexing, but I handed her the document. This document, did you perhaps leave it on my desk by mistake? I think it should have been submitted to your boss. Also, the format seems to be off. You might want to correct it. As I was speaking, Rachel silently stood up and beckoned me to a corner. Although I was puzzled, I followed her, only for Rachel to glare at me.
Of course I submitted it to my boss, but I was told to redo it, which is super annoying. So I delegated the task to you. Can't you see this?
Rachel pointed to a post-it note stuck to the document. It said,
"Redo it for me."
I had noticed the post-it note long ago, but I didn't understand the memo.
I'm highly educated and capable, so even if I don't say anything, work comes my way and I get busy. Do you get it? That's why I decided to share some work with a part-time grandma who seems to have time.
I did my best to suppress a cringe that threatened to twist my face. If I remember correctly, new recruits at this time of the year are still under their training period. Even if they're promising, would they really be assigned that much work as newcomers? Besides, what does she mean by sharing? Apart from the document, this person, Rachel, seems to have many points to question. This is your work, Rachel. I can't do it for you. As I handed the document back to her with a smile, Rachel's face turned red.
Why not? It's just a little correction.
Correcting it is also part of your job and learning process. Even after I explained this, Rachel didn't seem convinced.
Don't be so cheeky for a part-timer, do it.
At first, Rachel spoke in a low voice, but her volume gradually increased, causing a stir around us. What are you doing? Eventually, the employee in charge of her training came over and reprimanded her, ending the matter there. Or so I thought. It turned out that I was the only one who thought so, as I seemed to have earned Rachel's resentment over the document issue. From then on, I was harassed by Rachel almost every day.
It's unthinkable for someone as highly educated as me to be doing such menial work.
She would push work onto me with bizarre confidence and pride, or make snide comments about my age and part-time status, like,
"It's a blessing for a 65-year-old to be a part-timer in a big company like ours. It's hilarious how kind our company is to hire such an incapable old lady."
Rachel has been so terrible. When I discreetly asked around, it seems that Rachel is a problematic new recruit who stands out among those who joined this year. There are rumors about her poor ability to catch up on work and her difficult personality. How did someone like Rachel get hired in the first place? Rachel always flaunted her high education as if it were a mantra. I guess they equated educational background with competency. Our company assigns new employees to their departments based on their work ethic during the training phase. Most of the new hires work on my floor, so I naturally end up dealing with Rachel a lot during this period. The assessment phase lasts a month, so I only have to endure this for another 2 weeks. Oh, but what if she gets assigned to the same department as me? The dreadful thought made me inadvertently clutch my head. Despite her supervisor and other colleagues cautioning her, Rachel kept instigating confrontations with me. If we ended up in the same department, I would definitely be living in hell. She probably sees me as an easy target since she perceives me as a timid old lady. Unaware of my troubles, Rachel approached me again today.
Hey, what was that about just now?
She called out to me as I stepped out of the employee cafeteria.
Huh? What?
As I stared blankly at her, she dragged me away to a less crowded spot. Rachel turned to face me and blurted out.
You were talking to Ethan, weren't you?
I had indeed been chatting with a young male employee named Ethan in the cafeteria just now. I sighed inwardly. When someone complains to the mention of a person of the opposite sex, it's usually for a predictable reason. What's the matter with that?
Don't you dare make eyes at Ethan, you old hag. The way you touch him is disgusting.
Indeed, while chatting casually, I had lightly patted his back, telling him to pull himself together. I was surprised she had noticed such a minute detail, but I was even more taken aback by her saying, "Are you serious about me hitting on him?" I couldn't help but chuckle. After all, I'm already 65, which Rachel likes to point out herself.
What are you laughing at? Are you making fun of me? Ethan, you know, is the heir to this company, not someone a hag like you can casually talk to.
I must have inadvertently revealed my inner disbelief. Ethan is indeed popular among the female employees because of his good looks and personality. Our company has banned the custom of giving candy on Valentine's now, but I remember him taking home quite a lot of them in the past. Rachel is likely one of the many who admire, or maybe even have a crush on him. But it's absurd for her to be jealous of someone like me. Hey, enough already. A few of the younger employees who had noticed Rachel's loud voice gathered around us trying to intervene.
Mind your own business,
she retorted, refusing to listen. To prevent them from incurring her wrath as I had, I smiled at the people around us and reassured them. I'm okay. Rachel spat out a final insult.
A poor middle school graduate like you should just work quietly until you die. You're an eyesore.
And then she quickly walked away. She really is the troublemaker everyone says she is. Sherry, are you okay? The employees who had tried to stop Rachel expressed their concern for me. Yes, thank you. After that incident, it seemed someone reported Rachel to her boss, and she was reprimanded. Since then, while she'd occasionally glare at me with great intensity, her confrontations with me considerably decreased, and I breathed a sigh of relief. Days passed, and Rachel was assigned to the HR department. Why did she get assigned to HR? I wondered as peace returned to my work. Each department is important in its own right, but given Rachel's track record and personality, I simply couldn't picture her in HR. I know she had to turn in a copy of her university diploma, so I'm certain her educational background isn't a lie, but even with that thought, she couldn't even run a photocopy machine and still worked on documents in her own style, despite being corrected several times already. More importantly, her attitude towards her colleagues is awful. This was something I knew better than anyone else. I wondered how she could get by like this. Despite enduring numerous verbal abuses and harassments, I couldn't help but worry. While I was worried, I also didn't want to get involved with her anymore. I stretched out, savoring the peace that had returned. 2 months later, I was in the changing room, switching from my regular work clothes to a suit, catching my breath. Dressing differently made me feel more focused. I quickly checked my appearance in the mirror and murmured to myself, "Today there's going to be a lecture-based training session at the company, and I was one of the attendees." When I arrived at the venue, some employees were still preparing the projector and arranging the desks. I should help out since I'm already here, I thought in my mind as I approached a person on the stage. As the person turned to my voice, they expressed surprise.
Wait, Sherry, what are you doing here?
I deeply regretted my mistake in choosing who to approach. Of all people, it was Rachel, the troublemaker. She put her hands on her hips, looked down at me from the stage, and snorted.
There's a training session here today. What does an old part-timer like you need?
As always, she was unpleasant. I kept my smile and responded, Yes, I'm here to attend the session too. Rachel snorted.
Hold on, today's the final day of training for us new hires. Why would a part-timer like you attend? Oh, I see. You're an old lady who needs to refresh her memory from time to time, so things don't slip your mind.
Putting aside her sarcasm, Rachel was right. Today was indeed the final day of training for the new hires. Our company's training for new employees lasts exactly 3 months. The first month is an assessment period, and the remaining 2 are for their boss to observe their work performance. Today was the final day. A sort of summary day where several employees serving as lecturers would provide lectures on topics such as the company's management philosophy.
You're not here as a lecturer, are you? Or has dementia made you confused? This place isn't for bottom-rung workers. Go home already.
As I maintained my silence and smile, Rachel's verbal onslaught escalated. The younger employees around us were so stunned that they forgot to stop her. While she was still berating me, I noticed a familiar face among those entering the room. Keeping my smile intact, I gestured with my palm toward the entrance. You might be the one who'll be leaving after this.
What are you?
Rachel followed my palm and immediately gasped. Standing there were our company's president, the head of the HR department to which Rachel belonged, and Ethan, the man she fancied. The head of HR was sweating profusely at Rachel's outburst, while the president and Ethan were clearly disgusted.
No, this isn't what... I was just trying to explain to this part-timer the importance of today's training.
Rachel, finally realizing the gravity of the situation, began to stammer out excuses. No one was coming to her aid. Amid the uncomfortable silence, Ethan, standing next to the president, glared at Rachel and asked me, Mom, is she the problematic new hire you were always talking about? When I answered, yes, Rachel let out a shriek as if her throat had been constricted.
So you're Ethan's mom? Then are you the president's wife?
Back when I was young and working for this company, I was introduced to the former president's son and ended up marrying him. My husband is now the president of this company. Not only Rachel, but also the other younger employees were displaying expressions of surprise.
Why didn't anyone tell me?
At Rachel's distressed outburst, I explained. Only a few employees know I'm the president's wife. I didn't want the new employees' attitudes to be affected, so I asked them to keep quiet about it. Rachel just gaped in response to my words. I was asked by my husband to greet the new employees and offer them words of encouragement, both as a long-serving part-time employee and as the president's wife. That's why I intended to attend today. I didn't expect to be talked down to this much. Rachel bit her lip.
Why would the president's wife work as a part-timer?
I might not know much about running a business, but I love this company and I enjoy working among people. Also, working part-time is easier, since I still have household chores at my age. I continued. There are things that are harder to see from higher positions that are instead clearer to a part-timer. For instance, we often hear various rumors, don't we? I glanced between the head of HR and Rachel while making my ambiguous remark. Rachel's face instantly turned red. I hadn't planned on spelling it out in this setting, but in her heightened state of emotion, Rachel pointed at the HR manager and shouted out an accusation.
It was him. He told me that if I went out with him, he would arrange for me to be hired.
I was taken aback, not expecting her to self-destruct in this way. Everyone, including my husband and son, was astir. Working part-time, I heard all sorts of rumors, including the rumor about our head of HR and Rachel being in a relationship even before she started working here. It was supposedly why she was hired and assigned to HR in the first place. The source was one of Rachel's fellow new hires, who also told me about it. Apparently, a drunken Rachel had boastfully revealed it all at a social gathering. Later, when I was complaining about Rachel to my husband, I also discussed this rumor with him. I intended to verify it at some point, but I didn't expect this sudden turn of events. All eyes were on the head of HR. His sweat-drenched face was so pale and trembled, so much that he looked as if he were crying. Criticism began to fly around the room. The head of HR was a married man, so it was only natural.
Given these circumstances, we have no choice but to halt the training for now,
my husband declared, and the training was put on pause. Dragging along Rachel, who was wailing, and the HR manager in a daze, we relocated to the president's office.
We had initially heard rumors about you two from my wife, Rachel, right? Your disrespectful behavior towards my wife was unacceptable, and we have received numerous complaints from other employees as well. Honestly, we were trying to figure out how to deal with this. By the way, sir, is it true what Rachel just said?
Yes.
With my husband's question, the HR manager, knowing he could not escape, weakly nodded. Rachel had difficulty in landing a job despite her education because her character was seen through. Seems as though this whole thing started after the HR manager approached her following her interview. Rachel, on the other hand, was defiant and was shouting at me.
"This coward, he manipulated me into it."
She seemed to be referring to when she exposed her relationship with the HR manager, and from her demeanor, she didn't seem remorseful at all.
Your way of joining the company is far more cowardly.
Ethan defended me with those words, and Rachel sat down, breaking into tears. I approached Rachel and said, "Rachel, you were allowed to join the company in exchange for engaging in an inappropriate relationship with a married HR manager. That alone is considerably wrong as a person. Be ashamed of yourself, correct your actions. Otherwise, I believe you'll lead a life filled with more regrets than now." I spoke to her as if admonishing, but Rachel just looked down, silent like a sulking child.
Mom, I don't think it's worth saying anything to her. She's really done as a person.
Upon hearing Ethan's sighing voice, Rachel's voice subtly shivered. Oh right, she had a one-sided crush on my son. These brief words may have hit her harder than anything I said.
Now that we know it's a fact, we'll decide on your consequences later. Rachel, you can go home for today, and as for you, you stay and get back to work.
With my husband's words, the HR manager and Rachel, both staggering, left the president's office. After watching their retreating figures, I never saw Rachel again. After a while, she resigned from the company. The HR manager was demoted and transferred to a different department, and was served with divorce papers by his wife. He's clinging to his job while being looked down upon by others, all to pay alimony and child support. According to Rachel's parents, who came to apologize later, understandably, Rachel was also sued for a large amount of alimony by the former HR manager's wife. Rachel turned to her parents for help but was rejected, and now she's apparently working part-time at a gas station in her neighborhood. As for me, I have plans to dine out with my family after work tonight. Ethan wants to introduce us to his girlfriend. I wonder what kind of person she is. I grinned and went back to work, looking forward to tonight's dinner.